Hi, welcome to Goats, Gardens, and Healthy Tips. We are out doing some fall fix-ups today before the winter sets in, which is coming really fast. It is beginning of November. Then the girls are helping us do some chores here. I wanted to do a video on our barn and our goat enclosure and share with you the things that worked out really well for us and then some of the things that didn't, just as a helper in case you're thinking about building a goat barn. So we're going to go through that today, and we're going to start out with the barn and then we'll move to our pasture area. We decided to get goats about 3 years ago, and I just wanted to give some information out about preparatory before you even start, because we ran into a few problems, and to make sure that you don't have those same problems. You're going to want to check with your city ordinance to make sure that you can even have goats. We have a 5-acre lot, and we are in an area that used to be all rural. It is now being built up quite a bit around us, but years ago when we moved in here, it was pretty rural, and it's all, there's some farmland across from us, and otherwise it's like mostly 5 and 10-acre lots. Now there's some neighborhoods that have moved in along us. So when I went and asked about having animals previously, I was kind of told, no, we couldn't, but I didn't really investigate it too much because we weren't ready for it at that time. So when we decided to do this, I went back to the city hall and investigated some more, because everybody around us has animals. And apparently our lot and then the lot that's right behind us are both 5-acre lots, and they were zoned residential in the middle of everything else being zoned agricultural. So it was just not sure why they did that, but it caused some problems. So anyways, we had to go through quite a process of getting our land rezoned. So you just want to check with your city ordinance and make sure that you can even have goats, so you don't run into that problem. Actually, there was a ordinance where you could get a variant for horses, but not for farm animals. So we had to actually go through getting our land rezoned. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is to pick out where you're going to have your thing. We were starting out with nothing, like a lot of people maybe have a shed or an old barn or something like that they're working with, but we had nothing, and so it was to pick out where we were going to have it. And the things that I would recommend with that is to make sure that there's a good drainage area. You don't have water built up, because it's not healthy for the goats to be in standing water, so you don't have water buildup. Also, if you're going to have electrical, it's convenient to have electrical, availability, and to make sure that it's in a good spot where you're able to see the goats if you can. That isn't always going to work. Our one thought that we were going to do is to put our goats next to our exterior garage, and that would have been really convenient as far as the electricity, and it's a nice flat area. But a couple things that weren't good was that there is some water drainage, as the pasture would have come out in a water drainage area. And also I couldn't see them from there, and I really wanted to be able to see them. And we had this nice open space in our back of our property, and so we decided to put them out here. The only inconvenience has been we didn't have the storage from the garage, and we also didn't have the electrical, but we ended up just taking electric and carrying it all the way to where our pool is and plugging in there. So it's worked out just fine. And maybe someday we'll bury it, or Bob has talked about putting solar in. So those are kind of some things that you might want to think about. Then after we got that figured out, we had to decide what we were going to use for a structure. And there again, check with your city, because we had some problems with that, as far as we are only allowed 3 buildings on our land. So it's our house plus 2 other buildings. And we have an exterior garage already. So we could only have, this one other structure. And it had to be either a shed, or it could be a structure that you had to do foundation and, kind of a big ordeal. So we decided to go with a shed setup. And so we purchased the shed package from our local Menards, which is our building store in the area. And that has worked out like super good. The good part about that is a lot of the wood came pre-cut, and like the base framework was pre-cut, and there was some cutting and stuff to do, but that really helped out a lot. Came on a big pallet, got delivered, and that made the assembly much faster. So we ordered this shed packet, and we decided on this particular style because I liked how the doors opened up here nice and wide for the goats to come in and out. And then we'll go around, there's a door on the side so that I have an entrance on the side to go into more of the storage area. And then it also had an option for windows, and so we chose to put the windows in. So that is how we decided what we were going to build. Then we had to get the land ready. So Bob rented the first time around. Our goat barn is in 2 pieces. So we built the original one, which was 12 by 20, I believe. Yes, 12 by 20. And then 2 years later, we added on another 12 by 20 onto the back of it for storage. So I'll kind of go through the first part and then the addition to the back. So Bob at first rented a little push, what would you call it?
Toro walk behind.
Walk behind lifter, scooper or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how we cleared the land. It took a long time and it was pretty laborious, but it was better than digging it out by hand. So he did that, and then he put on fill to bring it up for drainage and to level it out. So he used, did you use class 4?
Class 5.
Class
sand
5, and then sand.
Some more rock base, yeah.
And then a rock base. So we kind of looked into that. What should we use? Should we do a cement floor or should we do this soil type of floor? And we live in Minnesota, and all I could think about in the winter was, there's some really good benefits to the cement, like you can scrape it off, you can hose it down, that would be really convenient. But in the winter, I just kept thinking about like how cold they would be, and the urine would collect and I wouldn't be able to get it off, and it would get slippery, and so I was just trying to weigh what would be best for, and I don't know, I'm sure both work out because people put those rubber mats down on cement, so I'm sure that works out fine. But we decided just to go with the soil to allow for natural draining. So that's what we did for warmth for the goats. So he got that ready with the rock, the class 5 fill, and then we put a thicker layer of sand on top of that. And the sand works out really good for drainage for them and for their hooves and all that stuff. So that's what we did for the flooring. And then we started, and Bob also put these patio blocks around for the base. What are they, 6 by 10 or something?
8 by 16.
8 by 16. Okay, patio blocks around for the base, in which he set the framework of the goat barn on.
2 by 4 treated.
Okay, 2 by 4 treated. Okay. So then we started assembling the packet. Lucy's continuously chewing on my boots here. We started assembling the packet in our garage, which was really nice because we did it sometimes when the weather wasn't so great. And we built the walls in our garage. You could do that outside, but our weather is just so fluctuating, so it was nice to be able to do that. And then we brought the walls out here to assemble. The basic build was pretty easy with the packet. I just think it was really nice to have a lot of that stuff that was already pre-cut. The windows were an option, and we put 4 windows in, and we'll show you that when we come in. And then we also, the packet did not include shingles. That was an extra purchase. I think everything else pretty much came with the packet. So, okay, so we'll do a little tour here, and I'll explain to you what has worked really good and what hasn't worked so good. So this is the basic inside of our goat barn. We did decide to insulate. That was another thing that I did a lot of research on, and we were trying to decide what to do. Now, most people would say don't need to do that. They're very durable. They can be outside in the winter. And I'm sure that is true, but it can get really cold here. Like we can have a week of 20 below or something, and it's miserable. So, and I also had to think about that I'm the one that's going to be out here taking care of the goats during that cold weather too. And I want to be able to enjoy that. So we decided to insulate the barn, and I'm like super glad we did because it does not get horrible in here. The only time we ever leave them locked in here is if we have a really cold spell like that goes on for days. Otherwise, I leave at least one door open in the winter because they really like to go out in the sun, and even if it's chilly out. When it's really cold like that, they'll stay in here. But we've got the door facing the south, and so the sun comes in the afternoon, and they just love to lay either right here on some straw or on some of the benches where the sun comes in and they absorb their sun there. And they love their barn. They really like it in here. Angel's always likes to be in that corner, and they love to be on these benches, so they've really enjoyed it. So anyways, we did the insulation on all the walls, and we insulated the whole ceiling, so wrapped it up around and put the plywood on. One of the things that we did that was a mistake was we put this fencing, which was our same fencing that we have out on the pasture, up here for a separation from the storage area, and over here. And that ended up being a mistake because we had an incident, day 2 of having our first little one, goats. That was Clarabelle and Lucy. They were 8 weeks old, and Clarabelle got her head between the fencing. It's 4-inch holes, goat and sheep fencing, and she halfway pulled off her horn, and we had to end up having them removed. It was kind of a big ordeal, so we could not keep that like that because we had the hay stored back there, and they were constantly sticking their heads in there to try to get at the hay. So we ended up covering it up with plywood, and that's worked out fine. And I'll show you on the inside, it's kind of nice because I used that fencing to hang stuff on, so that's worked out good. Let's see, what else about the build in here? We've got these hay racks that we use for their hay. This has worked out really good. These were actually laundry baskets that I got from Walmart that have like a canvas liner in them, and I just took the canvas liner out. I saw this online. Somebody had mentioned this online, and then Bob attached them here. The reason I really like this is because they're smaller holes, and when the goats were little, this was really good, but also because they really like to waste hay. And no matter what you do, they pull extra hay out, and there's a lot of hay waste. So with the smaller holes, they have to work at it a little bit more. And see how she's digging in there. And anyways, it's a less loss of hay. And we've got 3 of them. We've got 6 goats. We've got 3 of them. That way, you know, there's issues that go on during feeding, and everybody can have a place to eat. So that's worked out really well. Let's see. Where should we go next? We've got this fly trap tape. Now, it's not real active right now because we're in late fall right now, but this has been such a great thing too. I think I got that at Fleet Farm. I know you can order it online, and it comes in a big roll. The roll lasts over a year for each roll, and then it's put pulleys on the ceiling here. You put hooks in and you put these pulleys on, and that collects so much flies. It helped tremendously in the summertime to help keep the flies off from them. And then you just, once it gets full, like in the summer when it's really hot and there's a lot of flies, it's probably every 3 days or 4 days that I'm reeling it in and putting clean on. So that was really a great addition. We put a fan up. We didn't think about that till the 2nd year. And this is like a nice high power fan. I think it was about $80. I bought it online, and that has been really great too to keep the airflow in here and helps keep them cool in the summer. And it just helps keep the air fresher in here too, to keep that running. This summer I also put another fan in the back storage room in the window, and I'll show you that when we go in there. Bob built these really handy benches. These look like what? They're probably about 2.5 feet wide.
Maybe 20 inches out.
Okay. Now, if you had bigger goats, you might want to do them a little bit bigger. These are all miniature goats, and so they work out really good for them. But, you know, depending on the size of your goat. They love the benches. They're on the benches a lot. Like Snickers and Angel are on the benches right now, so they come in and lay on the benches. They play on the benches. They sleep on the benches. And they really love them. So that's been a really good thing, too. When they were really tiny, couldn't get up on the big one by themselves, Clarabelle and Lucy, and so he put this one in, and then they could hop from the one to the other. Also, they like to lay in the winter. I put some straw under there, and that's one of the places where they like to sleep is, some of them do. Some of them sleep on the benches, and some of them will sleep under the benches. So the dimensions in here are 12 by 20. And we have 6 goats in here, and it's pretty comfortable. I wouldn't pack a lot more in. I know you can, but I want them to be comfortable. So this is the good dimensions. We have a camera in here, right up here. And the camera is a Wise camera, and that lets us be able to see at night how they're doing. So that's been really handy as well inside. You just got to be careful if you do that you have all the wires, like that wire that's looped down now. We probably need to loop that back up again because they can get up there and chew on that. So then Bob built this nice little division in our barn here. And he put these nice shelves in, which has really been handy for me. I keep my supplies on here, my medicines and herbs and vitamins for the goats. I keep a small container of food here. They don't eat a lot of grain. They're not milking goats, they're pet goats, so they don't eat a lot of grain. You have to be careful about that. So I just keep a small container in here, and they get a handful in their little bowl at night, each of them. And because that's another thing you got to be just mindful about is if they get out of their space to where the food is, they can get very ill if they eat too much grain. And this way, this is all they would be able to get into. And I have it up on the top shelf, so they probably won't be able to get into it. So just nice to keep supplies here.
Grab the tape and quick measure this. Maybe
Okay.
under 4 feet.
So I'll measure the width here. 3.5, it looks like.
3 feet to the 3 feet to the post here.
Okay, 3 feet to this post. So that has worked out super nice. When we just had this part and we didn't have the addition on, and then he put this nice, door here. When we had this in the beginning, this was our storage area. So we had all of the hay, as much as we could store in here, 20 bales, I think.
Yeah, 20 was tight.
And that was packed against there all the way to the ceiling. And it was fine. It worked out. And then I had their extra food and stuff in here, packed in here. So I could barely get in here and do stuff. It worked out. But once we decided this was working good and we had the 6 goats, we just decided to put an addition on for the hay, and then we can keep more hay and supplies. So now I get to use this space for doing hoof trimming. And it just works out super nice. I have another video on hoof trimming, but I can just walk them in and have this set up with a ramp and get them right up on here. And I'm not crowded. Before I was doing the hoof trimming in the hallway there, and it was just crowded and the lighting was not good. And so this just makes it a lot easier. And then, I just have some tools and stuff set up here. And that's about it, I guess, in here. It's just been really nice to have this as a storage area. We are going to convert this winter into our winter bunny area. So we're going to work on that project today, which I'm really excited about. We used to keep them in the garage, but now we're going to make this the extreme winter weather bunny space, or for me to bring them into at night. So that's going to work out great. Okay, so that's the nice little storage area. The windows. Should we go in here and look at the windows, or they open up really good? And so they're open in the summer, and just now it's, like I said, we're heading into winter. So there's 2 on each side, so you get airflow going all through the barn. And let's see if there's anything else in here. Okay, we'll go look at the stuff out here. So this is the nice side door here. It's just very convenient for me to come in here at night, get my supplies, I get their grain and stuff ready, let them out, and it just works out so well to be able to keep them out of my space while I'm getting stuff ready, because they can get kind of naughty. Okay, then Bob did such a great job on landscaping. We didn't do most of this landscaping until the 2nd year, but he hauled in rock from our swamp, and the big rocks, and then we put some fill rock in here and got it up, to the height where it wasn't such a huge slope then. Right before it was just a big slope and we couldn't keep the rocks on there. So that worked out really well. And we put gutters on. That was another thing. Originally, before we had the gutters, when it rained really hard, the water was seeping from the sand outside down through onto the inside of the barn, underneath their benches where they were sleeping, and it would be kind of damp. And so the first thing we did was put plastic and rock with a slope on the outside. but then we just decided to get the gutters, and now it stays really nice and dry in there. So no problems with moisture in there at all. So when we added on the second part, we just got the same kit that we got the first time around, and then we just kind of inverted it. So now this would be the front doors opening back here, and then the side doors over there, and we'll go around and show you that when we're done with this. So this has worked out super good. On both of the doors, Bob put these extra lock mechanisms, which really is helpful because otherwise the goats prance and paw on the doors, and you know, they can open them or they kind of get them messed up if you have the latch on. So anyways, this is our second part. This has worked out so nice. We have room for much more hay in here. I can buy a lot more bedding. I have their extra foods in containers in here. Their food and the chicken and rabbit food and stuff like that all goes in containers, and the bird seed, so I can keep it away from rodents. We haven't had a problem with rodents, done really well with that. And we have a couple of other machineries and stuff stored in here, but that's worked out like super good. This is the inside part of our quarantine, and I'll show you that on the other side, but we had a situation with our goats where they have this thing called CL, and it's a cyst problem. It's a bacteria. I'm going to go into that on another video. It's kind of a big ordeal, but the way we dealt with it in the first time around was we had a dog kennel set up where the bunnies are right now, and we had to keep the goat in there to keep it separated. And that's fine, like in the summer and everything, but if this happens during the winter, there again, we're kind of stuck with that situation. So we decided when we built this, we were going to have a nice, just little enclosure for if we have a goat that has this. Now we've been doing really good with it, but if it comes about, you want them to have a place that's warm and safe and away from the elements. So that is what that part of that is for. All right, and then on this side, this is our quarantine area, and this was just a secondhand dog kennel that I got. And this is what we had set up over where the bunnies were. And we had like a dog house in there when they were in there at first that they could use. Luckily, it was during the summer. But this isn't all season now. So if someone's having a problem, they can be kept in here. And then this is that side door like we have for the storage on the first part of the barn. And this works out really well. It's a nice area. It is, you know, about 3 feet by, I don't know,
12 feet.
12 feet? Okay. So it's plenty big for 1 or 2 goats to be in here. I'll put a bunch of straw in here, and then I keep all their supplies because I don't want to mix that bacteria with their other supplies, so the separate supplies stay in here. And this is all insulated as well so that the goats can stay warm if they're in here. This other part of the barn that is the storage part that we added on is not insulated. Okay, and then on the roof, Bob put some really good ventilation along the top. Ventilation is really important with the goats. They create that heat in the barn and moisture and stuff, and so you don't want moisture in there. You get sick when they get into a moisture area, and so he did a really good job with ventilation along the top of the roof there. We have not had any problems at all with moisture. Okay, so after we got the goat barn done, then we had to do the fencing. 10 foot. All right, this is our gate, 10-foot gate. That's worked out really well. We just have a nice little clip here. And learn that you always want to extra clip your fencing because the goats are pretty sneaky and they watch you and they can very easily get up there and try to undo it. Oreo had spent much time trying to undo our fencing, our fence clip. Okay, so fencing, we used a goat and sheep fencing. It's a 4x4 square. It's not the wire weld. You don't want to get the wire weld because they push their hooves against it and they can easily snap open the joint. So this is a goat and sheep fencing. I would recommend getting the 2x4, which is actually a horse fencing, but it's the same company, because if you have small goats, they can get their heads through here. It's hard to even imagine that now. I see how big they are now, but we got Clarabelle and Lucy when they were tiny, and that was the problem we ran into right away, with the whole heads going through to get what's on the other side and getting the head stuck. So the way we remedied that was we got chicken wire and we just covered everything with chicken wire. That's been great. The goats actually love the chicken wire. They rub on here all the time. They scratch and rub on here. But it was just a little inconvenient to have to go and redo that after we had everything up. So as far as the fencing, I don't know a lot about fencing, Bob, but
Put some pictures of what you
okay, he's going to add some pictures of it. We just have the wooden posts for the corners and support, and then we use the T-poles. Let's see, the fencing is a 5-foot fencing, so they must be, oh, it's 4 feet? Okay, so what do we have, the 6-foot T-poles then, probably, pounded in? Hard to remember because we did this 3 years ago. But it's worked out really good. Like the goats do rub on the fencing a lot, and we have had 0 problems with them pushing anything away. Getting the wooden posts in was not exactly a treat. It was dry, and we used a gas-powered auger, and it was tough. Like, we had to end up adding water to the hole to get it to, be able to dig the holes out really easily. So recommend that you at least have that and not have to do them by hand. Okay, the size of our enclosure is about, okay, so 100 feet by 150 feet.
roughly a third of an acre.
A third of an acre. It's been great. Like, you don't have to have that big of an enclosure for the goats, but they love it. They have their play equipment out here. We'll look at that, and then they'll go graze out in the back there. They really like their enclosure here. Oh yeah, so that's another thing that you want to be careful about, to make sure there's nothing poisonous in your goat enclosure. So we had a red maple tree here, and that was listed as one of the things that they can get sick from, the leaves. And we just didn't want to take a chance on it, so we ended up cutting it down. And we have this other tree, but this other tree is fine for them. They eat the leaves on it, and that one is just fine for them.
Put a fence around it.
Yeah, we had to put a little fence around the trunk of it because they really started, hoofing on it and chewing on the bark and everything. And so we just put some T-posts in and put some hardware cloth around here, and they don't bother it anymore now. That solved that problem. Clarabelle likes to, this one branch that's bare, Clarabelle likes to jump up and she'll pull this branch down, and then they'll eat the leaves on this branch in the summer. It's kind of funny to watch her do that. She's the only one that does it too.
And on her back legs.
Yeah, and then she pulls it down for everyone to eat, but she's the only goat that does that. Okay, we have this play equipment in here for the goats. They really like this. So we got these from our local electric co-op. They were free, you just had to transport them yourself. And then Bob put some plywood over the top where there are holes in the top, just so they don't get their feet in there and get hurt. And then he built these little benches, because they were, Clarabelle and Lucy were pretty small. And so then they could get up on the bench, and then they would get up on these, and they would run around on these and stuff. It was pretty fun to watch them, actually. And now they like to stand on them, and they lay on them in the summer and sit out in the sun. And then we had cut down a bunch of trees, and Bob ended up putting a couple of big tree stumps in here, so they like to stand on those as well. Clarabelle really likes to stand on that one. I think she thinks she's kind of the queen when she stands on that one. And this was a set that a friend gave me, these small ones. She had gotten them to build little tables with and hadn't used them, and so then Bob just put a board on here and let them run across on there too. They like to be up doing those things because that's their natural their natural thing for goats to do. Yeah, I got 2 of them because when we had Clarabelle and Lucy and they were little, and then Snickers and Oreo came, and it was always a fight over the feeders. And at that time, Clarabelle and Lucy were way smaller than Snickers and Oreo. Now they're bigger. And Oreo was really a bully when she was little. So she's not a bully anymore, but she was a bully then. So we got 2 feeders so that everybody has a place to eat. And I liked these feeders because they were 3-inch openings. Most of the feeders are 4-inch openings. I got these at our local Runnings. And that way it's less hay spillage. Once again, they're really like to waste hay, and so less hay waste. Another thing I realized is I used to just fill them up and then, you know, there might be excess, but I don't do that anymore because if there's a lot extra, then they just pull it out and waste it. So I monitor more how much they're eating and just put in the amount that they're eating. And then it's got a nice basin here. If it rains, you just tip them up and dump them out. But these have worked out super good, super sturdy, and they have worked out as really good hay feeders. Oh, Oreo loves to lay in here and eat in the summer. She'll just lay there and just casually pick through the hay and enjoy it in that way. Right, girl? She's kind of a goofy goat. She's a very goofy goat, actually. Kind of a stinker. Okay, so that is our, oh, and Bob has a light up on the top there for security light. So that'll go on at night if there's action out here. We do have predators. We have a lot of coyote. I suppose that is the goat's biggest predator. And I was always kind of concerned about the fencing, if they were gonna, you know, if we would have coyote try to get over the fence or something. We've never had a problem with it. But we do put the goats in at night and we lock them up at night. So as soon as it's dark out, they go in, or right before dark out, they go in and they get locked inside. Keep them safe. We just put these buckets, put some hooks on the post here and put the water bucket out here. So I do need to get the winter bucket out. I've just kind of been putting it off because it's just such a hassle, more of a hassle to clean it versus these I can just take up to the house and rinse them out and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's going to be happening very soon. We actually had 4 inches of snow last week and it lasted 3-4 days and then melted. So now we're in kind of a nice little pre-winter time again, but we're getting ready. So that is our goat barn. It has just worked out so well. I wanted to share that just in case anybody is starting fresh like we are. It might give you some ideas of what might work for you.